Hey everybody, Kewalski here, checking in with another one of our hashtag Star Trek Discovery Discussions videos. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit of a video that I did a few days ago, and then we're going to attempt to answer a larger question, which is, what the heck is going on with Star Trek Discovery? So let's jump right into it. So first I want to go ahead and apologize for not really being too clear what I meant during the video I made a few days ago in regards to Discovery is canon. It really was related back to several other series of thoughts that I had put down into various videos that I had already released. And this may sound kind of weird, but sometimes I forget that people don't actually watch all of my videos. So to me, when I sit down and I go to make a recording and I make a video and publish it out, like to me, it's like a one ongoing long conversation that I'm having all with you guys and gals. And sometimes I forget to really properly recap all of the feelings that I'm having regarding a certain situation, specifically in this case, the canon. And that's all my bad. You know, I should have been more clear with what it is that I meant exactly when I said Discovery is canon and that it was sitting within the Prime timeline. And a lot of it had to do back with essentially with what, Midnight's Edge and their kind of group was with what they were saying, which was essentially that Star Trek Discovery was a unrelated Trek property, and that we would never, kind of quoting directly here, that we would never see the original Star Trek timeline ever again. And I don't think that to be the case. I think the fact that they used the footage from the cage shows that that's not going to be the case in the future, and that's not where we're at right now. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll understand a little bit more about what it is that I agree with and what I'm thinking overall in terms of Star Trek Discovery's canon/continuity situation. And hopefully it's a little bit more clear for everybody. So I do apologize for the confusion there, and I will do better in the future to try to recap everything so as to catch everybody up with my current thoughts, as opposed to just assuming that everybody watches all of my videos, which I guess not everybody does. So that's fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the big topic at hand, which is what the heck is going on with Star Trek Discovery. So to me, there are four things happening all at once. What's going on in the show, current theories, canon versus continuity, and the whole licensing/25% rule thing. So let's dive into each one of those things, because that's kind of the hot topics with Discovery right now, and I think all of which are shaping the way that the show is moving forward now into the rest of Season 2 and into Season 3. Okay, so what's going on the show? So this is going to obviously contain a bunch of spoilers for Star Trek Discovery, so if you don't want to be spoiled by Star Trek Discovery being, all the plot threads and stuff, so go check out another video on the channel, or go check out some other Trek-related content on YouTube or wherever. Okay, so where we're at right now is Ariam just died and sacrificed herself because she was under the influence by an artificial intelligence known as Control. Now, Control was an artificial intelligence that was developed by a different artificial intelligence from back in like the Enterprise era days, named Uri. And then this AI was put into place to try to head up the main control aspects of Section 31 and Starfleet's operations. This one eventually goes rogue several hundred years later and orchestrates the downfall of Section 31 and the other Uri AI. And we were suspecting is that this control is the same entity that causes the destruction of all sentient life inside of the galaxy that we see from Mr. Spock's vision, and inside of Star Trek Discovery. So we think that that's all one contained thing. The Red Angel appears to be a plot that's connected back to that, which is somebody who's attempting to go back in time to try and prevent the outcome of all sentient life being destroyed by Control. Now, we just saw in this episode that the Discovery and company prevented Control AI from getting all of this extra knowledge from the sphere, that ancient sphere that had all the information. It's unclear whether it always needed that information or if that was just an intention to jumpstart its own evolution. It's not clear yet, so I'm not sure if we've already remedied the Control taking over the galaxy situation or if we've just simply delayed it a la Terminator 2 style. I don't know. So we don't know who the Red Angel is, obviously. We don't know what their ultimate goal is. There are several theories working in that, but we'll get to that next. So they are a time-traveling being attempting to correct what they view as a wrong, which is all sentient life being destroyed. Other plots happening all as well. We also have the situation where Saru has liberated his people, and he's also evolved into a more adult being, so to speak. We also have a subplot of the Enterprise had been damaged at the beginning of the season, and we haven't really seen it since, but I think that's going to come back. We also have a subplot of Ash Tyler versus Paul Stamets slash Dr. Culber, because Culber is now back and he's trying to deal with his new identity of who he is and their relationship, and then their interaction with Tyler being the man that killed Culber originally. Then we also have the relationship of Ash Tyler and Michael Burnham, which they have not really addressed in most recent episodes, so I don't know if they're going to pick that back up or what they're going to do. Then we also have the dynamic of Spock and Michael Burnham, who clearly hate each other, but we'll see if that actually works out. And then we also have the subplot of Section 31 as a whole versus the USS Discovery. And then underneath that Section 31, we have Georgiou and Leland, who are tied back to Michael and Captain Pike, respectively. So there's a lot of stuff happening all at once. And then just to tack on one more thing that we haven't really gone to since episode 3, which was there's Chancellor L'Rell and the Klingons and stuff like that. I do know for sure that she's going to make another appearance in another episode before the end of season 2, but we haven't gotten there yet, so I'm wondering how that's going to unfold, or if they'll deal with the reappearance of Ash Tyler and her son, L'Rell's son, that they left off at that one Klingon priest planet. So that's kind of everything kind of moving all at once. There's a lot of intricate little tinier subplots going on, but overall, that's the major story beats that we are kind of touching on each individual episode. And the preview for next week's episode makes it seem like things are going to get a little bit more spicy in terms of what their intention of trying to interact with the Red Angel and trying to understand and discover what exactly this being is trying to accomplish. But yeah, so that's where we're at story-wise. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about theories. Now, I reported on 2 different ideas just a few weeks ago. One of those ones that I picked up from a Michael Curran over on Facebook, which seems to be kind of on the money, and also the control AI theory, which also seems to be kind of on the money. For the most part, both theories center around the interaction and trying to understand what the purpose and the plot of the Red Angel is. And we believed and theorized in the Michael Curran thing that the Red Angel came back and saved Michael Burnham, and when doing that, affected the timeline and essentially created a whole new branch of the timeline. And possibly something to do with the World War III church sequence, but that piece is not clear at all yet, so we're just going to stick with Michael Burnham for right now. And when she saved Michael Burnham, with Spock's help, it created a whole new separate set of timelines, and then so it went down and then came over. Now, I do believe that the events of the Cage, for all intents and purposes, happened exactly the same. There was no difference. And the reason I say that is because the footage, they reused the footage from the Cage from back in the day, 50 years ago, when they had it during TOS, during the Menagerie, and then they reused the same footage for the Discovery. So I think that there's like a line there between the 2 timelines that goes straight down, and the Cage happens exactly the same way, which is why I think that Discovery fits into canon, but not necessarily continuity. But we'll get more into that in a minute. So right now there are 2 timelines going on. This Michael Burnham saved timeline, and inside of that we have the whole Klingon War storyline. We have her effect on Spock storyline. We have the Spore Drive being saved by her storyline. We have the Mirror Universe storyline. We have Lorca going back storyline. We have multiple storylines, all from season 1 essentially, and a few from season 2 that occurred because Michael Burnham was alive. Now, I believe that all of the things that occurred in season 1 are going to be related back into what's going on with the Red Angel's plotline and explain like, oh, we saved Michael Burnham so she could cause all of these things to occur to prevent the end of all sentient life in the galaxy. Now, if that's going to work out, then that's great, but we don't know for sure yet. But that's kind of the extent of the Quran theory that we reported on, and that's what I kind of believe. I believe that Quran theory, and then also the theory of control AI, essentially that whole plot line that was inside of that Control Section 31 novel written by, I believe, David Mack, which all basically entailed the plotline that we're dealing with right now, which is eventually sometime in the future, the Control AI just becomes too wicked smart, and then just basically takes over everything, spreads itself out all over the galaxy, and then it slowly starts to take over everything. My theory in that video was that the Control AI infected all of the Federation's technology and essentially shut down Starfleet, the Federation, from within. And that is why I believe that the USS Discovery was left inside of that ion storm during the short trek to Ripso, which is to try to prevent it from being infected by the technology and used possibly as a way, as a means to build the suit that the Red Angel is using to go back in time to try to correct the timeline. I think that's all connected. together. I actually do believe at this point, especially considering the episode that we just saw with Ariam. Ariam downloaded all of her memories into the Discovery. I think that will become eventually Zora, the AI that we saw during the short trek Calypso. I think Zora will then build an AI body with a temporal suit to go back in time and try to correct the timeline and try to save everybody. That is what I believe is going to happen. So now let's get into another topic that I think we really need to talk about on this channel with a bit more nuance, and that is canon versus continuity. So I believe that Michael being saved by the Red Angel firmly puts Discovery into the canon of the overall show, and I think that most people would actually agree with that point. And by that I mean you have the original OG Trek timeline going like this, and then it branches off down slightly, but the saving of Michael, and then has the Discovery timeline. I think that the events of the Cage shows that the show is running parallel to the events that we've seen many years ago, and that for all intents and purposes, that episode did appear to happen exactly the same. So I think the show is in canon. I think it's attached to the show, and I actually think most people, surprisingly, would agree that the show is within canon, because remember, canon is the official word as to the way that a world works. Who's in it, what the things are like, what the history is, the details, the settings. Now, Discovery has slightly different history because Michael was saved, but I think that those things are lead to an alternate timeline, but set it inside of canon. I think that the Cage footage is CBS telling us that this show is well within canon. And I think most people would actually agree with that point. I think where people disagree is that it is in continuity, which is the process of establishing consistency of a narrative, visuals, and all that stuff like that work between each individual episode or each individual season within the overall franchise. Now, Discovery as a whole still breaks continuity because it looks, feels, sounds, and just everything about it is much different. It has, from the weapons to the holograms to the uniforms to the style of the way that the filming is done, everything is different in terms of continuity because it was essentially a overall visual styled reboot and tonal reboot of Star Trek. Now, are they ever going to admit to that? Probably never, but that's separate. So again, I feel like most people agree that Discovery is in canon because it's Star Trek and it is happening. It's happening, but it does not connect back to, in a lot of other ways, the other shows. And I think that all of the events that specifically happened in season 1 about the Klingon War and the Spore Drive stuff, I think are going to be explained by this temporal event of this Red Angel going back and saving Michael to begin with to try to stop the Control AI in the future. I think they're just going to say, when they did that, an alternate timeline broke off, and that's where we are right now inside of Discovery. Now, just one more thing on the end of that, which is we don't know for sure which one of these is actually Prime. And I know a lot of people are going to make that point and that distinction. Is Discovery's timeline we're in right now, is that supposed to be the Prime timeline? Was Michael always supposed to survive? Or was the original Trek the Prime timeline? Or is that now the alternate one? I don't know yet. Was Michael always saved, and we've never had a timeline where she was never saved, and this is all still one long timeline, and they just ruined the continuity, and it's all still the same Prime timeline? I also don't know for sure. That's not quite clear yet, and we'll have to probably wait to the end of the season to understand who the Red Angel is and what their overall plot was before we can really get into that. But that's another question, which is like a Cisco and Bell riots type situation, where Cisco always is going to go back to become, the Bell guy and cause the riots and do all that stuff. Like, it's always going to happen. It's always going to be kind of a loop. Is that the same thing with Michael? I don't know. I don't know yet. So we're going to have to wait to the end of the season to try to figure all that stuff out. But those are still questions that I'm asking myself. I'm not ignoring them or anything like that. It's just that I believe with the information that we have right now, it seems as though Discovery is in an alternate timeline that is within canon, but is broken with continuity, and will continue to be broken with continuity because the show is going to always, forever now look different and feel different, and that's just the way it's going to work. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about something that connects back to the reason why Star Trek Discovery looks and feels a little bit different, and that is the licensing situation with the 25% rule. So there is a theory out there that a third separate Star Trek license was created to give to Paramount Pictures and Bad Robot to create Star Trek Discovery. And that's not the case. I do believe that CBS entered a new licensing and contractual agreement with Secret Hideout, which is headed up by Alex Kurtzman, that says you will now make Star Trek shows for us. And these are the manner of shows that you must make. This is how frequently we want them. This is the topics that they will cover. And you need to be able to put those onto CBS All Access, because that's how business works. So CBS has definitely done that with Secret Hideout. Not with Paramount Pictures, not with Bad Robot. They are producing Trek shows. And I think that even as far back as Brian Fuller, they were expecting to do a visual update. I don't think that there was ever a time period, even with Brian Fuller involved, they were going to be reutilizing 1960s style of visuals and aesthetics inside of this show. I think that CBS did a bad job at managing expectations for fans and explaining that it would be a visual reboot, but that's already done and past. There's nothing we can do about that now. The damage is already done. They're already moving forward with the show. Now, what I believe was, as a creative aspect, they were going to be doing a visual reboot just because it makes the most sense for the show. I do believe that CBS Consumer Products probably stepped in at that moment and said, great, so we have an opportunity here to make a little bit more money. And by a little bit more money, I mean a lot of bit more money. And so what we want you to do is change everything just a little bit. Now, we say 25%, but we don't really know if that's accurate or not. We don't know the accuracy of that or whatever the amount of percentage is. And the reason why I do believe that this conversation did occur and CBS Consumer Products wanted it this way is so that they can sit there and say, okay, third-party merchandisers, if you want to make a hoodie or a sweatshirt or a lunchbox that has Discovery on it and you want to use the Enterprise, well, yeah, you already paid for the TOS Enterprise, but this one is Discovery's Enterprise, and it looks a little different. And you can't put the two together. Number one, probably because we made it illegal, and number two, because it would look stupid if you have a wrong TOS ship on your Discovery shirt or hoodie or whatever it is. So you need to pay us a small fee, not a big one, but enough of a thing for us to make some more money off of in order to use all the Discovery stuff. So that is why I think everything looks a little bit different in terms of the original stuff. Like, why change the Enterprise? Why not just have it look kind of the same? Like, yeah, obviously you would change the coloring to fit the universe and style of color that they use for Discovery, but why change the size of the neck or the nacelles and all that other stuff? Well, because, again, I think that they wanted to charge third-party merchandisers another fee to use the Discovery stuff, which is the new updated stuff. And, I mean, I think that's it. I really do. And I don't think we'll ever get a real answer on that because it just makes CBS sound kind of greedy because fans would probably shit their pants if they found out that CBS changed the way the USS Enterprise looked just to make a quick buck. But to me, makes the most sense. I do believe that they are well within their rights. CBS is well within their rights to let Secret Hideout use what the hell ever they want, but they're just saying, let's not. And that way we can charge people more money to use the cool visuals of the new show. And that's it. That's really it. I really don't think there's anything else really going on there. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and take a minute to answer some of the questions that you guys and gals posed to me either on Twitter or on YouTube. I'm just going to answer a few of them right off the bat here, and then if we want to go ahead and keep this questions and answers things going, feel free to throw up more of your questions down below in the comments, and I will get to them in the next video. Okay, so for the first question I have right now that I think a lot of people have asked based off of my previous review video for Star Trek Discovery is why didn't they beam Arian back aboard the Discovery after they blew her out into space through the airlock? I don't have a really good answer. The theory answers that I've seen floating around are that she was too dangerous to be brought back to the ship, that if they beamed her to the brig, she could have hacked out of it and beat everybody up. If they beamed her into the medical bay, she could have obviously killed all the doctors. We don't really know if they could have been able to contain her. All of these different things. I think that's kind of BS. I am wondering if that topic is actually going to come up and maybe people are going to maybe dislike Commander Nan because she was so quick to pull that lever. And maybe they could have had that issue come up and say, well, we could have saved her. Why did you do that? And maybe that's going to be an internal conflict within the crew. I think that's possible. But honestly, I don't know. I don't know why they didn't just beam her back on board, or any of them for that matter. Like, why did they just beam anybody anywhere or beam more security people in? Like, when they were like, Arium's going out of control, I thought they were going to beam Saru over there and he was going to get her with the gazelle legs or something, but it didn't happen. Another question that we have is, if given the opportunity to be in charge of producing Star Trek television, would I make my own show or change something that's already happening on screen? I would probably make my own show. I think Discovery has too much tainted aura to it to try to go in there and try to fix it without blowing it completely out of the water. I don't think there's any way to really do that. So I would make my own show. And how would I do that? I would do one. If I could make two shows, I'd make a mirror universe show, and I'd make a show set way in the future, way past anything we've ever seen before if inside of Star Trek's continuity, and just explore what it's like for the Federation after they've kind of taken over the galaxy, so to speak, and the bloat of the Federation weighing down on itself, I think is a fun concept. And obviously Mirror Universe is fun, and then you could do like the things where they're in the Mirror Universe, but then they go to the regular universe, and then all the bad people have to act like normal, like, you know, like Lorca had to act normal. I think that would be kind of fun. So that's what I would do. I got another question that says, can I make a full video about the Control AI? I definitely could. I definitely could do that, especially if we get towards the end of this season. I think I might do a video like that where after we explain and understand exactly what happened in the future, I may do a comparison video between the book Control that was written a little while ago and what we saw as the Control AI storyline from Discovery, and kind of comparing and contrasting the two things. Another question I got was, why don't they use tricorders inside of Star Trek Discovery? And they do. They do use tricorders in Star Trek Discovery. They just don't use them that often, and they prefer not using them at all for some weird reason. But they're there. They are there. Another question I got was, who is my lucky fiance? And that's a secret question. That's a personal life that you don't get to know the answer to. Sorry. So that's just, this isn't a life vlog. This is Trek vlog. So if she was in Star Trek, then you guys would hear all about it, but she's not. So sorry. Okay, so that kind of wraps up what the hell is going on. Again, we talked a little bit about what's going on in the show. We talked a little bit about some theories that we've had before. And moving forward, we talked a bit about the canon and continuity situation and about the 25% rule. I think all of these things is what's kind of going on with Star Trek Discovery, moving into Season 3 and seeing how the show is going to progress moving forward. So very excited for that. A couple of things that we don't know for sure yet is we don't know what the Red Angel is. We don't know what their ultimate goal is. We don't know how they started to go back in time. We really don't know what other things that this person or being has changed that has affected the timeline. And we also don't know exactly how the Control AI eventually took over and essentially destroyed the Federation and turned them into the Veradesh seen in the short Trek Calypso. So I don't know how all that's going to tie in together yet. We can still theorize on that. Obviously, that's what we're going to keep doing here on this channel and every other channel on YouTube. But we don't know for sure yet, and we'll know when we know. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But hopefully this video answered a few more questions for you guys about what's going on with Discovery, possibly clarified my position from the Canon video I released the other day. And again, I'm going to try my best to ensure that I do proper recaps as to all the things that are going on in my mind, so as to not make it seem as though I'm only talking about one specific thing and trying to cause a lot of confusion, because I think a lot of the points and questions and irritation that people had in the comments about that video towards me hopefully were answered in this video. I believe in the Quran Control AI theories. I believe we are in an alternate timeline right now that is running parallel to the original OG Trek series, and potentially we'll go back and potentially we won't. I don't know. But like I said, there's a lot of other theories going on out there, so I'm curious to hear what you guys and gals think. So throw that stuff down below in the comments, and I'll catch all of you guys and gals next time. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies!